What's up, everybody? This is Chris Haynes, First Nose On, and you're watching Kickin' It with Lexi. My birthday was last week. I turned 39. I'm getting old.
You're still young in spirit.
Oh, man, I'm getting my
Chris,
still fine.
are you ready for this question though? Toughest question. Are you ready?
Go ahead.
I don't know if you're ready, Chris.
Go ahead.
If you could describe yourself in one emoji, what would it be?
What's that emoji? Like he got his tongue all out, like crazy. Like it's like goofy. You know what I mean? Like
I think there's a couple.
it's one like where it's like you crazy, like crazy
Really?
emoji. Yeah, silly or something like that. That's pretty much how I am.
Like from Scream? Like
Yeah.
that kind of tongue?
Nah, that's pretty much how I am, like outside of work. Like work, I'm real aggressive and laid back. I'm quiet, but when I get around my friends, like that's a side that people don't see. Like when I'm around my friends, my homeboys, man, I'm crazy. Like I'm known for like ranking on folks. Like I'm known for getting on folks, right? And my friends always show me like tweets. This funny, because we talked about trolls, right? My friends send me these tweets of these trolls getting on me, right? And they'll be like, "Man, get on them, Chris." I'm called the rifleman. That's my nickname, my friends, the rifleman, because I'm always shooting. Like I'm shooting, like I can shoot, I can rank and get on whatever. I'm like, shoot him, bring that rifleman out. I'm like, nah, man, everybody don't deserve to see that side. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like, so they get mad at me all the time because I'm just so reserved and seem so like calm and cool because they know me. Like they know, like I'm rowdy, goofy. You know what I mean? So that's a side a lot of people don't see.
Some people just maybe get a little sneak peek sometimes every now and then.
Every now and then I gotta show them what's up, show them like, hey man, I'm not gonna just turn the cheek every time.
Welcome back to another episode of Kickin' It with Lexi. Joining me today is Fresno's very own Chris Haynes, who is a senior NBA insider for Yahoo Sports, also TNT Sideline Reporter, hosts his very own podcast. Chris, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. How have you been? How's life inside the bubble?
Counting down the days. I got about a month left now, I think. But it's been a cool experience. Obviously I think this is something that's pretty unique and historic. And so to be here, I was one of the first ones here, one of two media members that got here June 29th. So I've kind of seen how this whole bubble experience has taken off and seen how it's adapted and being altered over time. So it's been cool, man. I'm blessed and privileged to be here, but I definitely can't wait to get back home for sure.
What were your initial thoughts when you got that call that you were going to be covering the NBA inside the bubble?
Well, I knew I would always be doing it. And so I was going to be here regardless for Yahoo Sports, but TNT called me, they called me, I believe it was like June 27th. And they asked me if I would go early because the media wasn't supposed to arrive until late July. So like July 20th or something around that time. So my expectations in my mind, I was thinking, I'm gonna get there around that time. And so TNT called me and was like, hey, we want you to be our guy on the ground early. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I'm like, how early? It was like in 2 days. I'm like, what? I'm like, 2 days? Like what? They were like, yeah, we want you to be on the ground and, doing hits from inside the NBA. And, you will be there a week before the teams arrive. So you'll have a lot of perspective to provide. And so I had to basically make up my mind in that time. And then once you make up your mind, then you got to put your mind around like packing for 3.5 months, in a day and a half. And so that was kind of a whirlwind right there. Obviously I didn't turn it down. I felt like it would have been a historical experience, and TNT and ESPN, those are the two TV broadcast partners of the NBA. So TNT was allowed to send somebody here early, and ESPN was allowed as well. They sent Malika Andrews. So me and her were the ones that got here June 29th. And we were here before teams, here before the rest of the media. So that's how that happened. But, it was a scary, I'm saying scary or nerve-wracking time because I didn't have much time to make a decision. And then once I made my decision, then it was about preparing my family and getting them prepared that, dad, husband's not going to be around for a while, just out the blue, because they thought I was leaving late July. Then I had to leave in the next day and a half.
Oh, what an incredible blessing, though, to be able to cover. And just like you said, it's history that you're covering. So you just sort of got all of your sneakers I see behind you, packed them all in your suitcase, and let's go to the airport.
And I packed less. That's the thing. Like, my mind was going crazy just in that day and a half trying to pack, see what to pack. So I just threw stuff in the suitcase. Like, I'm not wearing these basketball shoes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of stuff I'm not wearing, but I was just, I just packed. I got these probably Air Force Ones, the shoes I wear pretty much every day. Because they go with everything.
Right.
You know what I mean? They go with anything. But all this stuff, like, it was a waste of space.
But hey, it's working out. Now you get to use that as your little backdrop.
Yeah, I guess so. Trying to show off a little shoe collection. And then, I've been getting shoes shipped to me during this time. And I had to actually, ship them back home because I ain't going to be able to pack everything. So I got to figure that out once it's time to get out of here.
Right. Now, Chris, take me through a day in the life of a reporter inside the bubble. I mean, as much as you can tell us regarding prepping, writing your stories, all of that good stuff.
Well, when you wake up, you're supposed to, let me see, I want to get your viewers. Matter of fact, let me do this. I know you press for time, but I want to make sure everybody sees this. So before you leave the room, you're supposed to take your temperature, and then you take your temperature, and then this is an oximeter reading that you put on your finger. And so what happens is it's an app on our phone, and once I put this in my mouth and once I put this on my finger, the data automatically goes into this app, and it inputs your temperature. And once your temperatures are okay in the app, it gives you a green light, which means you're cleared to leave the room. So if my temperature was high, oximeter reading was high, it would have red flags, and I can't leave my room. And a nurse or somebody will come to my room and do a more of a thorough check on me. But you have to do that before you leave the room. And so once I'm cleared by doing that, once they give me the green sign, the sensor automatically goes to my wristband here. And so this wristband, you have to use this wristband when you leave certain facilities in the bubble and when you walk into certain facilities. So say I had a bad reading and my temperature was high and I still left my room. Then I try to go in other facilities or whatever, and then I scan my wrist. It's going to give this, I forgot what color, but it's going to be a color that you're not cleared. And then security, because this happened to me before. Not that I had a bad reading, but I forgot to take my temperature before I left. And so then I'm trying to leave a facility and I scan my wristband, and whatever color popped up, a security guard came up to me, hey, did you do your temperature? Did you read? I'm like, no, I sure didn't. So I had to go. So you got to do this. Then after that, I go get tested. Some daily COVID testing where it's a mouth swab and it's a nasal swab. So it's nothing invasive. They're not going too deep or nothing. So it's really easy. And so once you do that, you go about your day. I mean, some days I'm going to just practices. Some days I'm going to games. Some days I'm, strictly there for Yahoo, which means, that's my writing obligations, for stories. And some days I'm there for TNT, where I'm the sideline reporter. And so whatever game, whether if I'm there for Yahoo or TNT, I'm there at the arena probably 2 hours before, because some players are made available, some the coach is made available. Then you're talking around, talking to your contacts, your connections, executives, and things like that. And so that's pretty much the everyday life as for me. I can't speak for all journalists, but that's kind of how I go about my day every day.
What would you say has been your favorite moment so far in the bubble?
That's a good question. You know what? I'm gonna say this. I think when the players pause the season, started by the Bucks. Was it about 2 weeks ago now? That was after the shooting that happened in Wisconsin, and the Bucks didn't take the court against the Orlando Magic, and that kind of spearheaded a boycott right there. It wasn't planned, it wasn't an organized thing, but it was something that was impactful because it showed that the players are really wrestling with this. Like, they're really wrestling with what's going on in society. The Bucks intended to forfeit a game. That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to forfeit that game because they felt like they need to address something that was going on in their own backyard. Players, before they got to the bubble, they wanted to make sure they kept the focus on the positives that were going on when it came to Black lives actually mattering. For the first time in my lifetime, we started to see, unfortunately, to the George Floyd murder, the Breonna Taylor murder, we started to see in our society of law enforcement being held accountable. Like, there was actually officers being arrested for these things. And I've never witnessed this before, at this rate. And so that's why a lot of players were kind of skeptical about coming here, because they felt like if we're playing basketball and just entertaining, that's going to take the focus away from, some of the positive things that are going on as far as, people of color getting justice. And so when that shooting happened in Wisconsin, while the players have been here this whole time being asked basketball questions, and they've been redirecting those questions to talking about Breonna Taylor's murderers need to be captured. You know what I mean? So to have that have that shooting happen in Wisconsin, it was heartbreaking for a lot of players because they felt like they were helpless. They felt like they're doing, everybody's wearing the Black Lives Matter shirt over here. Everybody's kneeling over here. Everybody's talking about just how justice needs to be done. And it still happens again, and players were distraught with that. And, there was a time there where, some players felt like the season was going to end right there. But they got it together. They pulled together. They met with the NBA owners and negotiated more ways that the owners can be more supportive and use their resources to enact change within the Black community. And so good came about it. And I was proud that they took a stand right there. And so that's one of the things that I will probably cherish. Like, that will be one of the fondest memories of this experience right here is when the NBA players put the season on hold and everybody was watching. Not just the sporting world, the whole world was watching what was going to happen from there on. And it all stemmed from what happened in Wisconsin and what's been going on in society. And that was just a proud moment to be a part of.
Right. As you mentioned, there's been a series of events from social injustice to the coronavirus pandemic, people, well-known public figures passing away since January. So Chris, what is your message to people? Maybe some words that have helped you throughout this year of 2020, or just anything that you want to share in general.
2020 has been tough. It's been really tough. I've lost one of my closest cousins, Tasha Thomas, to cancer. I lost her, like 3 days or maybe a week or something like that after Kobe passed. There's been we've lost so many people, man. It's gotten to a point where it's just, 2020 it's been the worst year of my life when you look at its totality, and we're still not done. But also, I think what's important that we don't lose focus of some of the positives that did happen. Like I said, like I mentioned for the first time, we're starting to see when pressure is applied, when people keep harping on the fact that justice hasn't been done for certain individuals. We've been witnessing that change is happening, and change is ongoing. So that's the thing that I think gets lost within 2020 is that, you know, I'll go to the protests when there was just massive protests all across the country, not just the country, the world, right? I went to a protest in the San Jose area, right? And for the, you know, this is a protest, you know, often we go to protests after somebody of color is killed by police or whatever. And usually the people at the protest are people who look like us. But this protest I went to, it was majority white people. And this was the first time in my lifetime where I seen like people of all races coming together for us. You know what I mean? For us. And that was, I've never seen that. I've never experienced that. And it was beautiful to watch and beautiful to be a part of. And that was the way these protests look all across the world. It wasn't just us. Time in and time again, when we're done wrong, when we lose a loved one to police brutality or whatever, and we protest and we're outraged, it's primarily us. We're the ones that's in attendance at these marches. And that wasn't the case. That's why it was so important to keep the focus on the positive things that are going on with the Black Lives Matter movement, not the organization, but the movement. You know what I mean? Actually just a revelation that, you know, our lives matter. And, you know, it takes white folks. It takes folks from all walks of kind to have your back in that. And that's what I want to have people to remember. This 2020 has been a brutal year, man. This started off in the sports world. I believe January 1st, David Stern, the former NBA commissioner, he died. And that was like the start of it. And, you know, we had Black Panther, man, you know, passed not too long ago. It's been like, I don't even want to just name names. There's been too many people who passed this year, but there were some positive strides that were made. You know, I think we should focus on them a lot more than we focus on the negative.
Yeah, very true, Chris. I totally agree with you. You know, just kind of, it's all about the mindset, having that positive mindset. So that's incredible that you're still keeping that regardless with everything that is going on here in 2020. Now, Chris, you know, you're one of the best in the games right now, journalist, sports journalist. So this question is geared towards, you know, the up and coming journalists, or maybe even those who've been in the game, but haven't really built a lot of connections. I saw in an interview where you said, quote unquote, you can't be, or, okay, let me rewind. So you said, the best reporters are the ones who have relationships, period. You can't be a great reporter without relationships. So what's the secret ingredient, Chris? How do you build those relationships with athletes as well as coaches and sources? And how do you keep them going?
Well, and that's hard because, like, when I tell people about, you know, some people want to be in the news breaking game. Well, if you want to be in the news breaking game, you need sources. And if you have sources, then you have relationships, because sources are people you trust. Sources are people who are instrumental in the moves that these players make, instrumental in the moves that owners and general managers make. And so those are important. But, you know, I can tell, that's one thing, Lex, like, I can tell somebody, like, you need sources. You got to get sources. You want to have, you got to build relationships. But this is the problem in today's age, like with social media and everything. And, you know, I'm 39 now, and, you know, I'm not old, I'm not young, but, like, even social media for me, like, I'm different. Like, you know, I grew up on the west side of Fresno, right? So I have a different upbringing and a different way of life, that, you know, just a different way that I went about life. Like, if somebody was talking shit, like, you would get dealt with. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to talk. We're going to address, you know, we're going to have a discussion. You know what I mean? Like, that like, it's not controversy. It's confrontation. Like, good, bad, whatever, confrontation, being up front. That's just the way we were bred on the west side. You know what I mean? And so when you get on social media, everybody's just talking shit. You got trolls. You got this, saying that, saying this. And like, when I first got on, like, it tripped me out. I'm like, man, they talking reckless on here. Like, you know, don't they know, like, You know, and the funny thing about it is the folks that talk reckless, when they see you in person, it's nothing like that. You know what I mean? And so, but my point in saying that is, I think with social media, in a lot of ways, it has ruined the one-on-one, in-person social skills that we used to have. You know what I mean? Like, I can tell somebody you need to build up sources, build your relationships, right? And they may go up and see somebody that they need to meet to get a relationship, but they don't know how to talk to them. They don't know how to hold a conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like, or they go up to them and just ask. It's like, hold on, that's not how you start a relationship, going up and just asking for things. You know what I mean? Like, what is that individual getting in return? Can you hold a conversation? Can you talk about something outside of basketball? And I'm just a real dude. Like, I'm a real cat. And so, you know, these are individuals. I know people look at these people as multi-millionaire athletes, you know, commercials, but man, they humans to me, man. You know what I mean? Like, they humans to me, whether you're a player, general manager, your agent, whatever. And so I treat them like such. And so I don't go up to them asking for things all the time. You know what I mean? I'm asking them, you know, how's the wife? How's the family? You know, how you doing? Hold a conversation. Ask about what's going on in the world, society. You know what I mean? Figuring out what they like. And those are kind of the things that, like, I can tell you, but I think due to our age and time where people are so used to texting, social media, people are reckless on social media, saying whatever, they don't know how to have those personable skills. You know what I mean? And so I think that's a lost art today. But if you have that, then you can establish a rapport with just about anybody. And, you know, that can help your career if you want to be in the news breaking game.
You brought up a great point in regards to like social media trolls. How do you deal with that? Because, you know, you have a platform, this huge platform. Let's say, for instance, you're on Twitter, you write something and someone just comes at you, throwing like, hey, you know, there's a lot of people, like you said, that are going to be like, oh, disagree with you, basically. How do you deal with that?
It happens a lot. I mean, how I deal with it, you know, I can't say, like, I'm going to be real. Like, I'm going to keep it honest. Can't say it doesn't get to me sometimes, because I'm a man. And this is another man. A lot of times, a lot of men that's talking reckless, right? But you know, and you know, it's funny because I talked to Dame about this, right? Damian Lillard for the Blazers. And I get on him sometimes about, like, because he'll clap back at some random dude that got like 10 followers. You know what I mean? Some dude's probably still living with his mom, ain't got shit going on. You know what I mean? And I'm like, dang, why you going back? And he's like, man, that's a grown man coming at me. I'm going to go back at him. Like, I don't care about his status in life. Like, I'm going to go. So that's just the way he chooses to do it. Me, it's like, sometimes it's funny. Somebody will go at me, right, and say something. I don't know. Call me a homer. I don't know. Whatever. And I'll DM him. I'll send him a DM. I'll be like, hey, thanks for reading. Just to let them know I saw that, right? And then 9 times out of 10, they'll DM me back. Oh, I can't believe you responded. Oh, I was just messing with you. You know what I mean? So these are all people who want to get some type of reaction from you. And they're really surprised that A, you seen it, and B, that you responded to it. And that kind of like made their day. So I don't take it personal. I'm just like, just the way I came up. It's like, we didn't go around we didn't have social media. You know what I mean? So we didn't go around you couldn't just go around talking shit and saying whatever. You know what I mean? Like, if you did, you know, it would get dealt with in some type of way. And so in the social media era, that's where I have to, like, you know, I take it. I realize they want a reaction, or they really think you're not seeing it, or this is another thing too. They don't view you as a person. They view you as this, whatever they view you as. They don't view you as an individual. You know what I mean? Like, they can talk trash about a movie star. Like, they don't think Leonardo DiCaprio, Eddie Murphy is going to respond back to them. So I'll say something reckless on Twitter, you know, but they're humans. Everybody is human. And for the most part, they get it. They're pretty shocked that you've even seen what they said. And so most of the time I don't pay it no mind, but every now and then I'll have some fun and send them a DM like, hey, thanks for reading. Appreciate it.
Chris, I love reading your stories, watching your interviews, but I want to talk about your personal story. You've been very open in regards to the struggles. You were very courageous. You didn't figure out what you wanted to do ultimately until your late 20s.
You did
Also,
your homework, right?
what was that?
You did your homework.
Thank you. Did some studying, you know.
I said it. I ain't mad at you. I ain't mad at you.
Hey, you're very persistent, Chris. As we know, everyone's path here in this world of sports journalism is different. For some, it takes longer. For some, it's easier than others. There's a lot of work, Chris, that goes on behind the scenes. And not a lot of people get to see that aspect. So I want to know, what is the best piece of advice that has helped you get to where you are today?
Well, I don't want to regurgitate, because I think everybody pretty much knows, but I'll say as much as I can. I worked for free. I graduated at college, Fresno State. I took the 10-year bachelor's degree program route. I think I graduated when I was 27, I believe. 27 for Fresno State, after playing college ball at Fresno Pacific University, Sac City College, I had hoop dreams, so I wanted to play overseas, but that didn't work out. Anyways, long story short, I wanted to cover the NBA. So I realized I had to leave and get to an NBA market, so I picked Portland. I've been in Fresno my whole life, and I got married young. I think I was 20, so I had 2 kids at the time. I had three kids time of graduating, and most of my friends, I'm just looking around, man. Like, my friends being murdered, going to jail, or just not doing anything positive, right now. And I wasn't the most wholesome guy myself, you know what I'm saying? So I used to try to hustle. I never sold drugs or anything like that, but I sold like bootleg CDs and DVDs back in the day, you know what I mean? Like that was like a hustle of mine early on. And so I'm just like, I never got out of Fresno. Aside from going to Sac City for a year, Fresno was all I knew. And I wasn't exposed to anything. And I said this before, but I didn't like the Bill Cosby show growing up because I didn't know any black people who lived like that. I didn't know there were black people who went to college. Their parents went to college and they're raising their kids to go to college. And I didn't, my parents didn't go to college, didn't graduate in college. And so my grandparents didn't. My grandma did later on in life, but I didn't grow up in that type of environment. And my friends sure didn't grow up in that type of environment. So it was fate. And so I'm the type of person that whatever I see, that's what I think life is. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't travel, so I didn't know what opportunities were out there. I didn't know what existed. So I had a very, very narrow viewpoint. But anyway, so I'm 27. I'm just realizing I need to get out. There's not much happening for me here, and I didn't want my kids to get, just be raised up in some of the wrong things. And I'm not saying Fresno is bad and all that, but I knew my mindset where I was at still, like I was still around some of the same things, and I didn't want them raising that. So I moved to Portland, graduated, got my degree in kinesiology because I wanted to be a PE teacher and coach. Still wanted to be around sports. So I moved to Portland, and for a year, I worked as a security guard at a high school and a security guard at an apartment complex because I could not find a job. Like, here I got this degree and I couldn't find a teaching job. Like, I couldn't get it. And that was the only job that I could find. So I did security work during the day, and that night for Slam Magazine, I worked for free covering Blazer games. And so I did that for a whole year. And, I really did my thing. I really had a good rookie freelance year. I didn't get paid for it, but I got some exposure and, did some radio interviews and a few TV hits. And after that year, Comcast Sportsnet Northwest, which is now NBC Sports Northwest, they opened up a new position. Somebody covering the Blazers, traveling to every Blazer game, home and road, doing TV 3 times a week, never done TV before. Basically, I got the job. So that's what I did. It took perseverance. I would never advocate somebody working for free. Never. I don't believe in that. But that was the route that I took, and I felt like it was a calculated route because I had a plan. Like, I wanted to be an NBA writer. That was it. Like, I remember I was talking to some of the people I respect in this field, and I would ask them, like, what I got to do to cover the NBA? And they would tell me, well, first you got to cover high school sports for 5 years. Make your mark there, dominate that, and then move up to a college beat. Do that for 5 years. I had no aspirations of covering high school, college, none of that. Like, I didn't want to do that. And so, thankfully, the time that I came up in social media with blogs, right? You don't have to take those traditional path routes of covering a high school at some obscure city for a newspaper, then moving up to cover college for a newspaper, then before you get to an NBA beat. You know what I mean? So there's other avenues of getting to where you want to get to. Now, when you figure out the avenue you want to travel down, it's important that you attack it and be aggressive, because I was hungry. Like, I was hungry. Lex, like, let me tell you this story. Lex, real quick. I know I'm spouting off, but 2011, I went to the NABJ convention, which is National Association of Black Journalists Convention. I'm 27. I'm working as a security guard during this time and working for free, right? So it's the first time I go there. Mark Spears, like my big brother, my mentor, undefeated ESPN, he told me I should go. First time I ever gone. It's in Philadelphia. I go, Lex, it's about 5,000 Black journalism professionals, whether you're on TV, radio, behind the scenes, your editors, your photographers, anything, the weatherman, like anything from local to national, anything that has to do with journalism, these people are there. They're dressed up, looking good, and I'm just like blown away. Lex, you know what the west side of Fresno is like. You know what I mean? Like, that's my upbringing. That's what when you see where I came from, if you see a black man in a suit, they're going to court. You know what I mean? They're on trial. And I'm here at 27, and I'm witnessing this for the first time, and it's tripping me out. I'm like, all these successful Black people in one spot. And Lex, one thing that had me like emotional, had me crying afterwards, I'm looking at these cats who are 22, 23, working at ESPN. And they're working at ESPN. These are not on-air people. They're people like producers, executive producer, behind the scenes people, jobs that I never knew existed. And these are people that actually went to college out of high school, finished in 4 years, and have a career going at 22, 23. That is unheard of where I come from. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know cats like me, like, you know, they might get it together later on in life, but you don't go straight from high school to college, finish in 4 years, start your career like that. And the last thing that got to me was Jamil Hill, Michael Smith, Bomani Jones. These people are like 2-3 years older than me, right? And they were just hot at that time. It's 2011. And I'm looking at myself, I'm like, I wasted all my 20s. Like, I just wasted all my 20s, because these are stars in our business in 2011. So you know they had to put in work for most of their 20s to get to that point. And here I am at 27, about to be 28, and I haven't even started. I just felt so behind. So I left that convention just like, was crying. I was like, what was I doing, man? My whole mind was just f***ed up. All of my 20s, but I left that convention like even more determined, because I was like, I'm gonna make up ground. Like, I'm gonna speed this shit up. I'm gonna speed it up. Like, if it calls for the regular person to bust his ass for 7 years to become this prominent figure in this business, I'm gonna accelerate that. It's gonna take me a year, but I just gotta keep going. You know what I mean? And so after that convention, 6 months later, I landed that job covering the Blazers. That's what got me in. But it took that convention, man, to see all the time I wasted, and to see like how I just wasn't exposed to a lot of that stuff. And I blame myself for not being more open-minded to going outside and stepping outside my box. So I never try to diss my city, put my city down, but I always tell people you got to get out and get exposed to other things because you never know what's out there, and that should change not only the trajectory of your life, but for your kids' lives, for your generations. And that's what I want to do. I want my kids now have been exposed to so many things, traveled the world, had things that I've never had, and I'm hoping that trend continues, and they do that for them kids, and we just continue to keep elevating our family chain.
Chris, I can hear the passion, and I'm sure you're inspiring someone right now who is watching this, you're even motivating me. But yes, so Chris, back to the story at the convention, it was very motivational, especially what's going on right now in 2020. People are losing jobs, working in sports. It's very crucial what you said, just giving that extra oomph, that push, motivating people to not give up, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. That's the only mindset you have to have in this business, this industry. It seems like, man, we've lost a lot of talented people, man, to this. Even before this pandemic, man, our industry is always changing. It's always adapting, and it seems like we keep getting the short end of the stick when I'm talking about the writers, the reporters. But I will say this: it's always important and crucial to diversify your skill set. And what I mean by that is, obviously you have multiple skill sets, whether that's on TV, print, whatever, podcasting, whatever. But I will say, as far as being a writer, right? So I was, when I got that gig in Portland for the first time, covering the Blazers, right? I was so paranoid because I really didn't have an editor. And I was new to writing. You know what I mean? I just started trying to write that last year of college when I was 27. So I wasn't this trained writer. Like, I didn't have a lot of experience. And when I got that beat covering the Blazers, like I said, I wasn't skilled yet. I wasn't trained for it. And I didn't have an editor who looked over my stuff before it published. So my work would get out there how it was. Like I can't, even to this day, I don't know if you can even find it, but I don't even want to see the work I put out my first year and a half, whatever. And I remember, like, I would get emails from people like, your writing sucks, your grammar is horrible, all these type of crazy emails, and they were right. It was bad. And I would read people saying, like, how did he get the job? Like, I can write way better than him. How did he get the job? Like, how is he still progressing in his career? And this is what I would say to that. If they were right, I was not ready. I was not ready my first year, or maybe even my first 2 years. I was not ready. But one thing I had over most people is this, before I say that. So there are people who are great writers, know how to dot the I's, cross the T's on everything. Like, they know how to get this writing thing done. But nobody talks to them. They have no relationships. And so really all you're doing is writing. I mean, okay, you have a clean page here. Your writing is clean, but you have no substance. You're writing off of what a player said in a group setting to everybody. What value are you providing your employer? And so what I always had was based off of my relationships, where I had the star players telling me things, just me, right? So what I have exclusive content now. And then now when I drop this, everybody's going to write and be talking about this. You know what I mean? Because this player, this agent, whoever dropped news to me. You know what I mean? And so it's one thing, like, I think a lot of writers, they rely too much on just scrum work. And I've never been that way. Like, I'm not going to a big event with the intentions of writing whatever a player said to 50 other reporters. Like, how am I going to stand out? How does that separate me from the pack? You know, we getting the same quotes. Nah, I'm getting my own. You know what I mean? I'm getting my own, and I can do that based off my relationship. So, going back to the people who were criticizing my writing my earlier years, is that yeah, you might have you could write better than me at that time, but you can't get the content that I can get. You can't get the news that I can break. You can't do none of that. And so I was able, based off of that, based off of the substance I was getting, the content I was getting, the news I was breaking, the players coming to me for their stories, I was able to steadily improve, you know, my writing, and you know, to the point to where I am now. And so I say this. That goes back to the people skills and all that stuff. Some people can be excellent writers, but have no people skills to be able to get their own quotes, to get their own interviews. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean by diversify yourself. Like, go outside of the box. Don't just settle for just scrum work. You know what I mean? And you're not going to get one-on-ones or get players coming directly to you if they don't feel like they can talk to you, you know, beyond just basketball. If they don't feel like, because I remember when I went to a locker room for the first time, I went inside the NBA locker room. As soon as they let media in, you see the players make a dash to the treatment room. And the treatment room is an area that media can't go. But automatically I saw that, and I saw how the dynamic was. Like, players didn't want to be bothered with media. So I was like, man, I ain't trying to be coming to work every day and player look at me and just dip off. You know what I'm saying? So I would see how some media members did their job. Like, as soon as they went in the locker room, they go up to a player, put a mic in his face. I'm like, man, the player don't want to be, you know, players, they dealing with shit just like we dealing with. You know, they probably having to fight with they spouses and going through all type of things, death or whatever. And as soon as the locker room open, you come in and just stick a mic in their face. Like, treat them like human beings. They're humans. And so I would go in the locker room and I would just talk shop with them. What's up? You know what I mean? I know some of the writers probably seen it and thought I'm being too buddy. No, that wasn't the point. The point is, this is a human, so I'm gonna treat them like a human. You know what I mean? So then when it gets to the point where I actually do need something from them, I need them on record, they're more forthcoming because they know this relationship extends beyond just me coming and asking for something constantly.
Mm-hmm. That's good. And just like you said, making them feel comfortable, because at the end of the day, that's a great point. We're all human. We're all going through things. So just making sure that they're comfortable and that they feel like, okay, this person has good intentions, right?
That's it. And I'm not cool with everybody. You know what I mean? Like you ask Pat Bev about me, you know, he probably don't have nice things to say. So I'm not cool with anybody, but I'm fair. You know, I think you ask most players, you know, from LeBron, Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry, Damian Lillard, on and on, Chris Paul, I'm a solid dude. And I have a job to do. Sometimes my job requires me to be critical. And I think as long as players know that you come from a good place and they can accept everything that comes with what you have to do as it pertains to your job.
Yeah, I remember watching the interview that you did with Bron, and he was like, I'll tell you, I'm just kind of paraphrasing what he said. He's like, I'll tell you when the cameras ain't on, or something like that. And I was like, yeah, definitely. He's, you know, trusted by superstars. So that's great. That's great, Chris, that you've been able to build that. And just like I said, good intentions, and you can tell your intentions are pure. But Chris, I want to ask you, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned throughout your journey in sports journalism? Maybe a mistake that you made that you hope those up and coming journalists don't make, you know, or even those who've already established themselves.
The biggest regret that I made in my career, this was awful. And the guy who I did this to, Mo Williams, he's not in the league anymore, but he played with LeBron, made an all-star team with LeBron in Cleveland, played in the Portland Trailblazers. So this was I believe my second year covering the league, covering the Blazers. And Mo Williams, backup point guard for the team, so he's a very valuable member to that team. But he was going through, I believe his sister was sick. And we've known this for weeks. His sister was sick. And it's something we all knew about. We knew that was heavy on his heart. So we're in Indiana, and the Blazers are having practice at the Pacers arena. And so we're waiting in the concourse area, because that's where media wait before practice is over, before they let us in. So we're waiting in the concourse area for practice to open. And I'm not knowing anything at this time, but I get a call. It's a call from a Blazer source who actually stays with the team. So I get a call saying, hey, Mo Williams is not at practice. He just left town because his sister passed, right? And I'm like, wow. I'm like, okay. Thank you. I appreciate you giving me the heads up. And I tweet out, Mo Williams' sister passed, and he's not with the team right now. And I think he went to Alabama or something like that. So I tweeted that out, and I'm getting ready to write a story on it. You know, it's a scoop. You know, that's the way I took it. It's a scoop. You know, you got something ahead of time. So one of the PR guys for the Blazers, Jim Taylor, he rushes out of the arena because he's in the practice with the players. So he comes out, pulls me to the side, pulls me away from the rest of the media. He was like, Chris, Mo's sister didn't pass. And I'm like, wow. He was like, that's premature. And so I retracted my tweet, apologized on Twitter, and and I was like, made a mistake, sorry he didn't pass, but he's not here. He left to be with his family. So 10 minutes later, I walk into the arena, and all the players are staring at me. And this team is like LaMarcus, Wesley Matthews, Nicholas Batum, I think Gerald Wallace. They was like, Chris, why would you tweet that out, man? And I'm like, duh. I couldn't do anything. I was like, man, I'm sorry, y'all. Like, my bad, man. I got wrong information. They was like, man. They was like, dude, like, I remember LaMarcus told me, he was like, man, like, that'd be messed up, man. You tweeting that stuff into existence, and it actually happens. And I'm like, shit, like, you make me feel even more miserable, right? And so I'm trying to call Mo, and obviously he's not picking up. Like, I just want to get in touch with Mo. Like, I want to apologize. Like, I gotta face it. Like, he cussed me out. I gotta face it. Like, I'm just calling him. So Mo was away from the team for like 3 days. And I've been calling him all 3 days. Couldn't get a hold to him. So finally, the team returns back home from the road trip. And Mo is there. He's in the locker room. And I'm like, I gotta go. I gotta face him. So I go to Mo. I'm like, Mo, bro. First of all, I'm so sorry, man. I said, I tweeted this information. I am sorry. I shouldn't, blah, blah, blah. He was like, bro, don't worry about it. It's all good. Don't worry about it. And that right there, Lex, like, I was prepared for this dude, and rightfully so, to go off. This is his sister. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I'm tweeting that. And when you look back at it, there were so many mistakes with what I did. Young journalist at the time, trying to find my way. But what I should have done with that information that I got was just said that Mo Williams is no longer with the team. He went out, left to handle a family matter, and he will not be playing tonight. That's the news. But I took it a step further and said his sister passed. Really? And then if you think about it, am I really the one that should be reporting that his sister passed? Like, did I know that all of his family were aware at that time? So there's probably family members that were following me, and they see this news like, what? She passed? You know what I mean? Like, that's not my place. I made so many egregious errors in that situation when all I should have did was, when I got that information, just reported that he's gone. He will not play tonight. He's handling a family matter. He left. That's it. And I would have been good. But just so eager to whatever. And Mo handled that. That's my brother, man. He's my brother, like one of the closest dudes to this day. Because he could have handled that situation in a totally different way. You know what I mean? And me and him are cool to this day. And what I love about it is that when I went to go cover the Cavs later on, I went to go cover the Cavs when LeBron went back to Cleveland. And Mo signed over there my last year over there. So I had Mo for another year, and he won a championship that season. So it kind of went back full circle. You know what I mean? That's one of my closest guys. Last time I seen him was at Damian Lillard's engagement party in Chicago, All-Star Weekend. And me and him chopped it up, introduced me to his girl, and, he took a picture with me, man. It's funny, like, he asked Chris, come take this picture with me, man. I'm like, man, that's love, man. Like, you know what I mean? That's the biggest mistake I made in my career, man. And the way Mo handled it, he could have been, he could have took it a whole nother way, and rightfully so. But he made that situation so much better for me, and I'm forever grateful for him on that.
Chris, you're talking about, these relationships, back on that. How do you, I guess you could say, find that fine line with like not knowing too much information, but still building that?
I struggled with that my first year, because it got to a point where players were telling me so much stuff off the record and I couldn't use it. There's some information that's off the record, but they was just like, it was to a point where like they would like confide in me in certain stuff. And then the information that I had that I couldn't report, it would break somewhere else. And that's the worst feeling, when news breaks and you already know that. You've been sitting on it and you can't. So after that first year, like I was like, nah, like I made a point. Like I'm like, man, we cool, it's whatever, but I got a job to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not here to be just buddy. You know what I mean? I got a job to do. You know what I'm saying? So I've been able to establish, and they know, like now I'm one of the, top news breakers in the game. So they know what I'm here about. But early on, it's kind of hard, even for the players, because I wasn't established in. So they didn't know exactly my role in this industry. Because you got different type of writers, different type of reporters. There are writers who are just great long form writers. You are some that are hard news breaking reporters. You have some that write like features, like real like upbringing, and what I mean. It's just different forms of writers. So to their credit, they didn't understand like where I was coming from and what I was trying to do. But after that first year, Lex, I was like, nah, man. Like, if y'all don't get me wrong, I'm not saying everything y'all tell me I'm gonna get it out, but just know, like, I'm not a counselor. You know what I mean? I'm trying to break news. I'm trying to get stories out there. That's my job. And so once I kind of drew that line, just getting more strict with it, I haven't really had a problem. And obviously, look, there's some things that I know that I'll take to my grave. But just the way that first year was, like, it was just so much information I had, and I promised them, of course, if I still make a promise now, I'll keep it. But it was just, a line wasn't drawn. And if you're in this game, a line has to be drawn. They have to respect your profession. You have to understand, like, that's the way you get food. That's the way you get paid. You know what I mean? I don't get paid for knowing information and not being able to report it. I get paid for being able to report. So there's some give and take. Obviously, they tell you some stuff to be told, and some stuff you keep it. Yeah. But the way I had it that first year, it was pretty bad.
It's a lot as you go, right? That you're just learning as you go, from what I could tell. Just being
and that's the way. And like, remember I was telling you, like, the day and age now, like, you can get these prime jobs having no experience before. But obviously there has to be a talent, a skill set that somebody sees in you to give you a chance. And that was Dwight James, the sports columnist in Portland. He the one that vouched for me to get that job. But I learned everything on the fly, from writing to, how to work a locker room. Like, everything was on the fly in public for everybody to see. On TV. I'm doing TV all of a sudden 3 times a week. Never done TV in my life. Now I'm learning on the fly on what cameras to look at, how to transition, how to get my points across in 20 seconds. You know what I mean? Like, all that stuff is difficult. Like, if you've never been, like, and it was just like, you know, when you're in the studio, you see all these lights and all this color, like, it's just, it looks so overwhelming. And I'm like, man, like, it's difficult if you've never done it before. So everything that I've done has been done in the public eye to be scrutinized because I was not ready. Like, I wasn't ready, but I made sure that I improved every single day. I made sure that I was going to get to a level to where I was viewed as not just somebody who can get information to you, but somebody who can deliver it properly, whether that be writing or TV, in the way that it should be. And I think that's the way I was able to, you know, just have that edge, man. Like, I hold grudges, and that's something I probably shouldn't admit. But, you know, I've always loved to prove people wrong. You know what I mean? That's something that's always motivated me. And, you know, I use that in this craft as well.
Just like you were saying, you learned as you went, basically. And that's what I like to tell myself. You know, it's all about repetition, just getting that practice in and not letting that fear, you know, hinder your potential, basically. And just like you said too, it takes that one person to give you that shot. That's also another thing that I like to tell myself. See that in you, that you have a unique style, or whatever the case may be for everyone, because it's different. You know what I mean? Everyone has something special.
And say, Lex, say I chose to go anywhere else outside of Portland. Mm-hmm. Like, I wasn't going to LA because LA was too damn big. Like, I couldn't even imagine going to Fresno to LA, like, trying to make my mark. Like, hell no. Sacramento, I went to Sac City College, so I didn't really want to go back there. Had I gone any other place, that opportunity that I got in Portland wouldn't have existed. You know, it wouldn't have. Like, it was like everything fell into place. Like, they were opening up a prime beat for the first time ever. And I just so happened to be there the year prior, where I was able to go in there for a year, work for free, and make my mark and get on people's radar. That's not happening anywhere else. And even though I had a skill set, Chris Haynes is not discovered, probably not at any of the other 29 markets, because those opportunities didn't exist. You know, so once you get that one person, like, you can have 50 no's and you get that one yes. And that one yes is all you need to, like, skyrocket. And then you got those 50 no's being like, damn, we missed that. You know what I mean? And that happens. That happens. Like, the opportunities weren't there. The beats weren't there. So they had no reason to look for new talent. I just happened to be in a great situation to where I can go in there and prove my value to where I'm at now. So people may look at me now and be like, Chris would have made it anywhere. Yeah, I would have made it anywhere if I was given the opportunity, but those opportunities aren't everywhere. You know what I mean? So I was blessed. That was nothing but God who placed me at that point to go to Portland, cover the Blazers 4 years, go to Cleveland, cover LeBron for 2 years, then go to ESPN, cover the Warriors, Yahoo, national NBA writer, then TNT, sideline reporter. Like, it was God who put me in that place, because you can't make my path the way I came in. You can't make that up. There's no other blueprint. Nobody else did it. There's other ways of doing it, but nobody else did it that way. And that's why I say, like, if you're focused and you're aggressive, and you know, you can't give up, man. You got to really attack this thing. You can do it now. Social media, these blogs, there's YouTube. Like, people become stars on YouTube. You know, they get noticed on YouTube. Comedians, musicians, rappers, whatever. Like, all these different platforms are out there now. So before, you had to go through all these talent shows and hundreds of talent shows to get discovered. Go on YouTube. Do stand up on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like, build a following up, get discovered. That's it. So there's different ways of becoming the professional that you want to be. But once you figure out and identify what that route is, you got to go hard. And you have to separate yourself from the pack. What skill set do you provide that nobody else has? You have to identify that.
That's incredible, Chris, and God's timing. As far as skill set, did you kind of know that early, from the jump, or did that kind of like progress that you're like, okay, this is what makes me stand out. This is what makes me unique?
I will say this. So one reason I wanted to be a journalist because I didn't see a lot of people that look like me in the field. And I was like, man, why? You got all these writers writing these stories about black players and their upbringings, their shortcomings, and none of them can relate to them. So it's like, I feel like somebody who can relate to those upbringings probably can write a better story or relay it more efficiently. And so that was one of the reasons I got into the game as well. When I went to chose Portland. And I don't know if you've ever been to Portland, Oregon, but it's not many of us there. And when I got there, I was the only media member of color. I was the only black reporter there. And so the players are used to seeing white reporters, of course. So here I am, 27, 28, walking in the locker room for the first time, and they like, who's this dude? You know what I'm saying? Like, who's this cat? Like, what's going on? And, obviously there was, I believe there was some fascination with who I am, what am I doing? Because there's nobody that looks like me in the profession over there in Portland. And so that definitely helped get me the end, because people want to know, like, where are you coming from? What are you doing? And so that helped me. But no, I mean, I'm a people person, period, man. You know how we, from Fresno, man, we communicate, we're engaging, you know what I mean? That's the type of people we are. So that's just how it was. And I didn't notice, like, I didn't look at it and say, that's what I gotta do to make it. That was just me. I was just being myself. While other people who don't have that connection, and I got that connection, it's not just with black players, it's with white players or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just, these are human beings, period. And so I didn't look at it like that's what I gotta do. I was just being myself. And being yourself is something that nobody else can duplicate. Nobody else. Nobody can duplicate you being you. Period. You know what I'm saying? Like, you from my hometown, so I'm giving you this time, but I studied you a little bit as well. I seen you interview some of my partners, before. I've seen you. You had what's my guy? Went to my high school, Edison, played football, played in the NFL.
Rob Golden?
Rob Golden. I was with him at the award ceremony. Was that late last year? Early this year? Before the pandemic. But I seen you. And so it's your relationships, the people vouch for you. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it's about. It's about relationship building as well. And that's how it is for players. Like, players, when it comes to players, they talk to each other. So they know what reporters not to mess with, reporters not to talk to. And so I always say this, I owe a lot of my career to Damian Lillard, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, because they talk to everybody. And it's like other star players that I might not have had a relationship with, but when they see me, they know who I am. I'm like, damn, okay, you know what I mean? So that's cool, because, your reputation is big. And to have your reputation be solid like that's cool. But no, I just be myself, and everybody else has to be yourself as well. Because like I said, nobody can do you.
Chris, how would you describe your job in one word? Unpredictable.
And I love it, because I worked at I love my dad. He worked at S.C. Johnson Wax. They made Ziploc bags. He worked there for 30 plus years, factory worker, right? And he would work 12-hour shifts every day, one day off a week. And I rarely seen my dad growing up, like rarely. And I used to resent my dad growing up because he wasn't around. My dad graduated Edison High School 71, and he was a star baseball player. So the Haynes, especially the Haynes coming up in the 70s or 80s, they're known for baseball. like being star baseball players. We got a few Haynes that's in the Edison Hall of Fame, right? And I didn't grow up playing baseball because my dad didn't have enough time. You know what I mean? Like, here's everybody's always talking about my dad being this great baseball player. You know, he really didn't have enough time for me growing up, and I resented that about my dad growing up until I got older. Till I got older and realized, you know, look at the job I do. I'm going way more than my dad now. Like, I'm going, like, just like this experience right here, I'm going 3.5 months. At least I saw my dad a little bit every day. But, you know, there's times I'm gone for two weeks, 2, maybe 3 weeks max throughout the course of the season. But the thing key was my dad was around. He stayed, he provided. We never lacked really for anything. And I realized once I got older, like, that was love right there. You know, just having him be around.
Chris, before I let you go, I ask all of my guests this question. What is something unique about yourself that not a lot of people know about?
I play the drums. And so I grew up in my church playing the drums. You know, I started playing the drums in my church when I was about, 4 or 5. You know, drums was my first love. Like, I didn't play. I think I stopped playing when I was a teenager. But you know, that's like a skill set of mine. And I got an electric drum set at the house that I try to teach my daughters how to play. Aside from that, you know, there's not much more to me than that, man. Like, I'm kind of open book. What you see is what you get.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. Like I said, Chris, keep breaking those stories, killing it on the sidelines, Chris. Thank you so much.
I'm sorry I took too much of your time. I know you had a lot more important things to do than to chat with me, but I appreciate you taking this time out, Lex.
Great insight, Chris. Thank you so much, Chris. Take care, okay? God bless you.
All right, bless you well. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.